Remember how you learned from me what Chevron deference is? Now, do you want to know how Chevron deference and a case about the statute of limitations that the Supreme Court issued today, how those two cases work together to really screw you over? Stay tuned. As dumb and ridiculous as the presidential immunity ruling is, it is not the worst thing to come out of the Supreme Court this term. That would be Loper Bright Enterprises, and then today, a case that the Supreme Court issued called Corner Post v. Board of Governors. Those two cases together are a 1-2 punch that will literally decimate the administrative state. It is going to decimate so many statutes that protect regular ass people like you and me. So what happened in Corner Post? In Corner Post, a truck stop sued, arguing that they didn't want to have to abide by the extra fees that were charged when you use a debit card, right? There was some law that went into effect in 2011 that governed the fees that had to be charged at the point of sale for debit cards. And this new truck stop didn't form until 2018, so they didn't want to have to pay the fees. So they went and they sued saying, hey, these fees are unfair. Normally, there's a 6-year statute of limitations to challenge a regulation by an agency, right? 6-year statute of limitations. And in fact, there was a trade group comprised of a bunch of corporations that filed a lawsuit challenging these debt fees, and they lost. But then this new truck stop is like, hey man, we weren't around back in 2011. We want to sue. So they filed a lawsuit against the Federal Reserve claiming that these fees were unfair. And then a federal court threw that case out as being too late, right? It's too damn late. The 6-year statute of limitations has passed. Well, now the Supreme Court has said that the statute of limitations runs, the point at which that statute of limitation clock starts to run, runs when the plaintiff is injured. So because this truck stop didn't exist back in 2011, they only existed in 2018, the statute of limitations to challenge that regulation starts in 2018 and then runs until 6 years past that. That is insane, particularly because they made this truck stop made the same arguments that the trade group made in the other case that they lost. So basically what this allows, the Supreme Court has just allowed any new party, any new litigant to challenge any regulation in the entire administrative state that they want to. Let me say that again. The Supreme Court has just said that any litigant, any new party can file a lawsuit challenging any regulation in the administrative state. Now, I'm going to connect this to the mifepristone case about these pills, right? In a couple of years ago, Matthew Kacsmaryk ruled, Matty K, he's the guy I was telling you about yesterday, he ruled that the FDA improperly authorized mifepristone way back in the year 2000. And when that ruling went up to the Fifth Circuit, that was even too far for the Fifth Circuit. The Fifth Circuit said, no, we're going to overrule that part of the order because if they wanted to complain about the initial authorization of mifepristone, they had to file that lawsuit in 2006. With this new Supreme Court ruling in Corner Post, that means any new plaintiff that wants to come along and sue about these kind of pills and claim that mifepristone is so dangerous, maybe there's a doctor who works in an ER who was forced to complete after someone took some pills and had a complication. They can now sue and ask a federal judge like Matty K to deauthorize mifepristone as having been improperly authorized all the way back in 2000 in the first place. That 6-year statute of limitations no longer matters. That is it. I cannot stress to you how bad this is. I need to interject. The 6-year statute of limitations does matter, but now it matters at the point when the person bringing the lawsuit was first injured. So even if the statute itself was passed 40 years ago and the regulations implementing that statute were passed 40 years ago, if a plaintiff was injured yesterday, they can file a new statute challenging all of those regulations. And we know that ultimately the regulations that are challenged are the ones that conservatives don't like, right? Like a bunch of liberals a bunch of Greenpeace type hippies could bring a lawsuit saying that the EPA doesn't go far enough in terms of regulating clean water, but that's not going to go anywhere in a conservative administration. What's going to happen is some big polluting company is going to file a lawsuit saying, hey, the regulations regarding cleanup, right? The Superfund, remember Superfund, where all these companies had to clean up their dumping? Well, those regulations are unfair. And so now who's going to be interpreting those regulations? Not the EPA, which would actually make those dumping corporations pay for the cleanup, but the Supreme Court, who is bought off by big business, who big business has said, hey man, if you slide us a nice ruling, we'll go ahead and buy you a new Winnebago. So Clarence Thomas is now interpreting EPA regs to allow corporations to dump shit in your water. It is shockingly bad. And hopefully I've explained it well enough. If I have not, feel free to ask me questions. I will answer them as quickly as I can. But reminder, I am going on vacation for my birthday. I leave tomorrow. I'll be in the air. I'll be on vacation. So, my TikTok might be a little bit light, except for, vacation photos. But that doesn't mean I don't want to hear from you.